Here with the Vice President of FIDE, Mr. Nigel Short, one of the best grandmasters and one of the top 100 players in the world. And he kindly gave me the chance to make this interview. The first question is the following. You were always seen as a fierce individualist and a rebel, but now you are a Vice President of FIDE. Are you comfortable being a prominent member of the establishment?
I am actually, because it's the first opportunity to change things in FIDE for a very, very long time. I think we've had deep corruption within the organisation for decades. And I think certain bad habits started with Florencio Campomanes back in the 1980s. He was a cunning politician, an intelligent man, with some good qualities actually, but he didn't, he was highly political and didn't mind bending the rules on certain things. So I think bad habits started with him and things got a lot worse. And now we have an opportunity to change things, and actually, even in a relatively short space of time, there have been some very positive developments. We still have a huge amount of work to do. Just to name two things that were done immediately, term limits. We can't have presidents for decades anymore. So 2 terms is the maximum. I don't care how good you are. 8 years is enough. And you have to have a change. The next thing is the abolition of proxies. So we've had the situation where sometimes, I don't say all the time, but sometimes when a delegate has been bribed, he's been asked to hand over the vote of his country. And so you have the embarrassing situation of delegates actually sitting in the General Assembly whilst impotently, whilst somebody else from a different country votes on their behalf. Now, why have they done that? For advantage. That let's say absolutely clear. So this has been abolished. These are things which have been done. We've tried to take back control of the World Championship and have succeeded in doing this. We still have an involvement with Aegon, unfortunately, but not for the World Championship final itself. That is a very, very positive thing, and I think players like Magnus Carlsen and his challenger, the next challenger, will see the benefits of that, and also the spectators who are going and watching online will see the benefits of that as well, and attending in person. So the many positive things. Just to mention one other thing which has happened this week. Chess is now in the Asian Games, forthcoming Asian Games. So we're moving chess back to where it should be. This is sort of part of our long-term goal to get chess into the Olympics, whether it be the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics, I don't really care. But if we do that, it will open up funding for a huge number of countries, from their national Olympic committees. So these are just some of many things that have been done. We've cut about 1/3 of the commissions. We had a huge bloated structure. I still think it's too large, by the way, but it's better than it was. many reforms. And let's not forget that the budget of FIDE is about double what it was last time. And we have slashed fees, or we will slash fees by 40% for tournaments, for organisers, for federations. So all of those things have happened within 6 months. I mean, these are massive, massive improvements in the way FIDE is run. Arkady Dvorkovich, he deserves a huge amount of credit for that, but it's not solely him, it's the people around him. There is a new team, a new ethos. There is a desire to change things for the better rather than to look for personal advantage like it was in the past.
And I think you had a big success also when you switch the World Rapid and World Blitz Championship from Saudi to Russia.
Absolutely. There are many things, actually. There's a whole list of things that we have done. And that's another thing which is really important. The previous administration was quite prepared to take Saudi money, even though they knew the Israelis and the Iranians and the Qataris would not be invited. Ultimately, the Qataris were invited, but there was no chance that Israel and Iran were going to be invited. And we're saying, you cannot hold it. We have statutes. They forbid this sort of discrimination. And we don't care whether you've got lots of money. Now, I have no objection to, in the future, to holding very important events in Saudi Arabia if they follow the FIDE statutes. It's very, very simple. It's, to use the tired cliche, we are one family. And, we are supposed to be politically neutral. So if people follow our regulations, and our statutes are good, they were good, actually, but we must follow our own regulations, and other people must follow them as well. And this is the way forward. And I know the story about this, and I was glad in the end the Saudis wanted to be involved in it, and we found a good solution that the event took place in Russia. Saudi Arabia contributed financially towards FIDE, but we were able to have a tournament that was open to everyone.
Yeah, King Salman was really kind to everyone. For the second question, do you think there should be separate tournaments for men and women, or do you think the women qualification should be abolished? And for example, I heard one proposal that was to create an expert title before FIDE Master, so one could abolish the women title. What do you think about it?
Well, as far as titles are concerned, I think the titles, I'm not really in favour of having separate titles as a rule. I think it encourages women to aim too low. You often hear that he's a grandmaster, she's a grandmaster, and in fact, when they are saying she is a grandmaster, they mean she is a women's grandmaster, which is obviously you're talking about completely different things. So I'm not really in favour of it, but I don't want to get into a very politically charged issue here. But I think in the medium term or long term, we have a problem in chess that, we have a world championship and we have a women's world championship. We don't have a men's world championship and a women's world championship. We have a world championship and a women's world championship. We have an Olympiad, open Olympiad, and we have a women's Olympiad. Actually, this is discriminatory against men. And I don't care how the issue is dealt with, but in the long term, it has to be decided. Like with other sports, if you're in the IOC, there are two categories of sport. Most sports you divide along sex grounds. So if you've got tennis or something, you have men's competitions, you have women's competitions in athletics and so on. Most sports are like that. But there are some other sports like show jumping, where men and women participate together. Now, in my view, you can have one or you can have the other, but you cannot have both. So, and it's not for me to decide which one is the right thing. I'm completely neutral on this. I think it ought to be a question for women to decide which one it should be. But ultimately, you cannot have two different categories. And that is going to be a problem, and it will cause a lot of tensions further down the road because of the discrimination.
So for the next question, so even legends like Bronstein and Smyslow suffer from poverty when they were old. Do you think there should be some social and financial security, at least for those players who have contributed a great deal to the game?
I don't think it's. I don't think it is a top priority. I would just rather see the best players having the opportunity to make lots of money whilst they're around. I don't think a social security system is what FIDE is about. I think we have to increase sponsorship and give people the opportunities to make money, and this will be unnecessary if this is done properly.
Currently, there is a surge of talent in Asia, Europe, and America. What about Africa? You have been there. Surely there must be a lot of talent waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
What may be done to encourage that talent?
Yeah. Well, what is obvious is that there is talent absolutely everywhere in the world. And, I've travelled extensively. Yesterday, I actually calculated the number of countries I've been to, and it's 129. And, I've seen good players everywhere, but they must be given chances. They must have tournaments. So this is an issue. In Africa, in particular, this is the continent where chess, let's say, it lags the most. There are certain structural problems which have nothing to do with FIDE, that a number of the countries, the incomes are not very high at all. So you've got low incomes in many countries. There are a number of exceptions to that, but in many countries you have low incomes. And also you have high travel costs. Flying around in Europe, in Africa, is not easy actually, and it's expensive. And I've done plenty of it. It's much more expensive than doing it in the Americas or Europe or Asia. So there are some issues there which we cannot completely address. I think FIDE historically has done poorly with Africa, and I know that there are some private organisations, charities like Kasparov Chess Foundation has actually done more for chess in Africa than FIDE has done. It's organised far more tournaments than FIDE has done. So you raise an important question, and it needs to be addressed. We do have a much larger development fund, so we have a much bigger budget, and I think it has been something that we haven't moved very fast on, because I'm aware that Arkady wanted to bring in somebody from outside of FIDE with experience in this sort of development, ensuring money is spent properly, ensuring resources are used in the best way. But we haven't actually got there yet. So this is one of the tasks which has not been completely addressed. So we have work to do, and you're right to point out that we haven't got there yet.
Thank you. You have met and interacted with many great players. Who made the deepest personal impression on you in terms of character, kindness, sincerity, and decency?
Oh, a lot of people. If you're talking about the many people, if you're talking about the let's say the greats, the world champions, I have I've played 13 world champions. In fact, I've beaten 13 world champions, 10 of them at classical chess. Petrosian I only beat in a simultaneous exhibition. Spassky only at rapid chess, and Magnus Carlsen only in a blitz event when he was very young in Reykjavik. So I've met people, and I've met others. I also met Max Erver, and I met Michal Botvinnik as well. So huge numbers. So I knew Boris Spassky quite well. I played Michal Tal a number of times. I was a big fan of Michal Tal. A very intelligent man, funny man, and a very exciting chess player as well. But I have respect for all of these characters, all of them. Smyslov, who of course was a completely different generation to me, distinguished older man who always had a sort of nice way of, nice personality. We didn't really have anything in common, other than our love for chess. And of course, the younger guys, Vishy Anand, Vladimir Kramnik, and so on. I have great admiration for all of them, especially the people who've reached the absolute top. So probably some people you would more rather have dinner with than others. That's inevitable. But I respect most of the people who have reached the top.
I know you have made a DVD with your career for Chess Base, and there is also a Nigel's method. Shall we ever see it?
I've done TV. I did a tactics course last year. Have you seen that one? That's it. Yeah,
that's Nigel's method was that.
Yeah.
Shall we ever see a collection of your games? You writing a book with a collection of your games?
That's actually been one of the big issues with me that I have literally never written a book. It's quite easy with me. The simple rule is, if you see an article or a newspaper article or a magazine article that says Nigel Short, it's written by me. If you see a book that says Nigel Short, it's not written by me. So that unfortunately, I had some things where, I had proposals from publishers in the past, and they said, we'll get this thing ghost written for you. And, I thought, well, I could do with the money, and I have done this. But you could well do this. I've actually been thinking about it for some time, and possibly I'm getting to that point. I have a very, very clear idea, which will not be exactly a best games. Will not exactly be a best games book, but it will be something else.
How do you prepare for a simul? I know Kasparov asked the participant never having crossed the 2,200 threshold.
2,000 level, actually. I think even lower. I think it's 2,000. Okay. Yeah. I think 2,000.
He probably doesn't want to lose, and so maybe.
But well, I
is
think
that important for you?
I think it's absolute nonsense, the Kasparov approach. I think it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing, actually, for a guy who is arguably the greatest player of all time. And if he's not the greatest, he's certainly one of the greatest players of all time. To put in a limit that is so low. Actually, my last exhibition, and I've just come from St. Kitts and Nevis, I was playing an international master in the simul, and I won all the games.
Really?
I don't like to play very strong opponents, but I think if you put an artificially low level for these events, it's no fun. It's like swatting flies. That's all it is, So, and it's the sort of thing that, people talk about this years later. They say so and so at the club, that he beat this famous grandmaster.
We have to.
We got to go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.